Ascension Sunday, the day we look at Jesus returning to heaven. But first, I guess I need to address the elephant in the room. Don't look so worried. I mean the fact that we had 3 readings with the same story. Ascension, ascension, ascension. Overkill, perhaps. I guess, unless, like me, you knew what was coming next, we would be thinking, why are there 3 readings about the same thing? We heard it the first time. Jesus went up. But when we look at the readings, they are not the same. The 2 gospel readings from Mark and Luke just say they went out and Jesus withdrew from them and was carried up to heaven. Or that he was taken up to heaven. Either of those could be phrases used to describe someone who died. Not necessarily someone actually floating upwards, but then Acts gets in on the conversation. It says that Jesus was lifted up and a cloud took him out of their sight. All of this while they watched. Mind you, the author of Acts also adds that while this was going on, 2 men in white robes suddenly appeared and spoke to them. Now, I hesitate to question the Bible, but obviously I'm going to. To my mind, if things happened as it says in Acts, surely Mark and Luke would have reported it as such. After all, witnessing someone flying into the sky like Superman, or, if you're more of an X-Men fan, Magneto, the old floaty. Now, to me, that is something that would stick in your mind and be worth mentioning. Also, everything Jesus had done up to that point had been quite understated. Classy. Maybe you could describe it as elegant. Even raising Lazarus from the dead. He didn't make a big show. There wasn't a big puff of smoke, clap of thunder, mysterious hand gestures or magic words whispered quietly. He just called out to Lazarus and said, "Come on out, buddy." Or, well, words to that effect, obviously. And it happened. So why would he then do something so flashy as to suddenly fly upwards into the sky? Doesn't seem quite right to me. The Gospels' accounting of the event seem more like Jesus. He withdrew, or he was taken. Nothing about flying. No men in white robes with mysterious words, just simple and straightforward. Now to me that sounds more like the Jesus that I've come to know and love. So just a quick aside here, the author of Acts is actually thought to be the same person who wrote the Gospel of Luke. So perhaps they took the original story Luke recounted and added a little bit, as we humans are known to do. Maybe a touch of embellishment, a bit of flying, poetic license, who knows. Anyway, however you feel about the story, one thing is certain. Jesus was gone. He went. And the disciples, for the first time, were left with a whole new reality, one in which they did not have Christ there to lead them, to teach them, or to guide them. They were left leaderless. Now clearly some of the first disciples stepped into leadership roles, otherwise we probably wouldn't have any of the early churches. But did they do it right? Big question. In my mind, something went a bit awry. Jesus taught them about loving everyone, all being equal, about following the way, as it was called. But instead, they seem to have fallen back into familiar patterns. It seems to me that Christ did away with the middlemen between man and God. He taught that we could speak to God ourselves, call on God when we're in need, that we did not have to ask someone else to do it for us. A church without priests. A faith without hierarchy. Wow, kind of mind-blowing. But I think Jesus tried to take them back to basics, back to the laws of Moses, to their simplicity. Of course, that is not easy to achieve. And sure enough, the early church started to rebuild a hierarchy, to put people in charge, in control and began to worship leaders rather than God. How could that match the teaching that Jesus had given, that men and women were equal, and they were all equal in the eyes of God? But yet again, human nature took over, and the churches became patriarchal in nature. So it seems much of what Jesus shared with those early disciples seemed to have gone astray once he left. Valuable lessons on how to live, how to love, how to serve, all pushed aside by our own wants, our own egos, our own need to be in some sort of control. Or in some cases, a desperate need to follow someone, to be subject to someone, to not have to think for ourselves. Very tempting at times. But I can't help but wonder how different the church would be now if they had actually stuck to what Jesus taught them all those years ago. And here's an interesting question. If they had, would it even be called Christianity? Jesus to me was a practical person, a humble person. He did not ask for accolades, for recognition. In fact, he steadfastly tried to avoid it. He only asked that we love God and one another. Seemed like simple requests, really. But if those early disciples couldn't maintain the things he started after being with him for so long, how can we now achieve those aims? For me, the answer is simple. By going back to basics. By looking at what Christ said and did. By looking at his teachings and his ideals. Not by pondering all the stuff that came after, all the additions, all the interpretations. As Christians, surely we should be following Christ. Not Paul, not John, not any of the other character or author or spokesman from biblical times. Or since, just the original, the true model of life and love, Jesus Christ. Surely that is how we become true Christians. So to me, the Ascension story has raised a lot of questions. Some doubts, and yet some very positive thoughts. It reminds me that although Christ is not here, we have his teachings, we have his words, we have his example that we can follow, each of us in our own way. It also reminds me that our current reality can change at any time, just as it did for those disciples. That each day, each hour, each tiny moment is new, different and unique. Every moment is a new reality. We should reach for it, yearn for it perhaps, because we may just find in that moment, in that new reality, what we are really reaching for, what we are yearning for, is God. And in that moment, I truly believe we are in the presence of the divine, fully and wholly. So Ascension is a time of new realities and of facing them with courage, faith and love. But most of all, it is a time to be reminded not to lose sight of what we are called to do and where we are called to go. Thank you.